Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please come gather around and sit by the fire tonight as I take you to Anauroch, the shifting desert wasteland that covers the buried cities of the Netheril Empire. When last we met, we witnessed how, as the Netherese Empire fell into decline, the race of Faerun, creatures who had been poisoned by Netheril's magic, started to cast life drain spells beneath the Empire's floating cities. And as the Faerun worked their magics, they drained not just the magic that was poisoning them, but the very life force of the realm. Soil, grass, meadows and field all turned to sand. The result was that the Netheril Empire was transformed into what we see today, the desert Anauroch. A place of twisting dunes and rocky mesas, of ruined arches and haunted tombs. Tonight, I want to take you by the hand as we travel deep into that desert land. Hi there, I'm Simon Tells Tales, and in this 5-part series, I'm going to be diving into TSR's 1991 publication, Anauroch, by Ed Greenwood. Across the episodes, I'm going to be guiding you through the desert landscape and introducing you to its factions, before reviewing the campaign sourcebook itself, and finally providing you with 5 great adventure hooks for running your own stories in this setting. And in this first video, I'm going to introduce you to the 3 key regions of the desert: the high ice, the plain of stones, and the sword. Now, in terms of timelines, Anauroch is 2nd edition Forgotten Realms, and that places it roughly at around 1367 Dale Reckoning. The Netheril Empire was finally wiped out in about 329 Dale's Reckoning, so we're looking at a gap of about a millennia between the fall of the Netheril Empire and the Anauroch Desert, as players in this campaign setting will find it. But where do we begin? Well, let us start in the sky, circling beyond the reach of vultures, wyverns and blue dragons, as we take in the features of this strange and unfamiliar land. The Anauroch Desert is not a natural desert. It was created by the life-drain spells of the Faerun long ago, as they tried to stop the magical pollution that was poisoning their species. Today, it stretches 2,000 miles wide and 3,000 miles long, from the icy crags and plateaus of the high ice glacier right down to the dry plains that preserve the treasures of Netheril in the south. All in, the Anauroch Desert contains almost 6 million square miles. That makes it comparable in size to the Sahara Desert, which gives an incredible scope of depth for storytelling. So come with me right now as we explore it. See before us the ice and the rock that makes up the sides of the high ice glacier in front. The glacier stretches further than anyone has ever discovered, and for the past thousands of years it's been inching its way further and further through the sands. The glacier, a frozen desert that contrasts with the hot deserts in the south, is home of yeti and white dragons and scavenger birds. The Netherese who once ruled this land tried to use magics to slow the spread of the high ice. But with the Netherese Empire falling, so too did its magic. And without those ancient wards in place, the ice spread, and the chambers and magical devices that were set up to control the glacier have since been swallowed by the ice long ago. In fact, if we follow the glacier now, we can see ridges of rock covered in ice and snow, where mountain peaks form at its edge. The lands that surround this glacier echo now with traces of those snow-covered peaks. This is the frozen sea, joining up the high ice glacier with the scorching sands of the sword and the mesas and the plain of standing stones, the 2 other regions of the desert. Here, amongst the snow-covered dunes, You can see old signs of dig sites where explorers have attempted to dive deep into the ancient netherworld ruins beneath these lands of ice and snow. See too that here lay a few ruined cities in the sand. Beneath us is Azkor, the former home of the Delzoun dwarves. Once upon a time, this was a thriving port on the edge of the narrow sea. The sea has been lost to time though, and the stone ships lay buried beneath the stands, their masts jutting up above the ice-covered dunes. And not far beyond that are the domes of the city of Hlongarth, where flesh-eating Lamia now reside. Explorers who come to the frozen sea to delve into Netherese tombs fail to realise that the Lamia laid them bare centuries ago. These tombs are now nothing more than baited traps for the Lamia to catch fresh souls to feast upon. But if we leave this area for now and swing around to the front of the high ice, then here, where the glacier extends down into the ridges and mountains of Anauroch, we see a stretching, rocky plain. This is the plain of standing stones. Mountains, basins and canyons cover this barren land, and its windswept cliffs are unwelcoming. Most desert travellers avoid this region as it's difficult terrain to cross, and the cliffs and hills make it an excellent place of ambush for the Laertis lizard tribes who come out to hunt at night. But see, as we travel over even now, the rocky crevices and valleys that crop up over this region. Some of these valleys, hidden from the naked eyes of travellers, are deep delving ruts that brim with green life and rivers. And here and there, as we move over these valleys, we can see small outcrops and wooden and stone buildings. These are the outlaw camps where humans, dwarves, verbeeg, ogres and hill giants have set up lives in exile from the law. They will defend those lives to the death. The plain of standing stones is a difficult land to survive in, and one that most of the desert tribes avoid. But there are curious things here. Come with me now, as we twist and dig in amongst the rocks and caverns, pulling around stony stacks and ducking under cliffs as we slip into dark caves. Here, buried deep beneath the stones of the plain, is Gondolath, an ancient and mighty blue dragon whose scales slide along the rocks, buffing them smooth. See, deep within his lair, the glimmer of ancient devices and the leather of Netherese tomes. Gondolath is holding great spells, the likes of which the world has never seen, and the pathways to his lair are littered with traps that only chosen members of the cult of the dragon can evade, for they come here often to this desert land to pay their respects to their great dragon lord. Finally now, step with me away from the plain of standing stones to the scorching hot desert dunes that surround this plain. This is the sword, and this is the part of Anauroch that adventurers will know best. Here are the desert dunes that are racked by scorching heat in the day and plummeting temperatures at night. This is a land where water is precious and food and plants are rare. Here, see the shadows of wyverns and dragons trailing over the sound as they search for prey in amongst its dunes. But there is more to the sword than just sand. See here how the desert shifts and turns in strange formations, revealing rocky outcrops, jagged cliff faces, plateaus, and rifts in amongst the desert sands. There is even life here. In amongst the dry, arid air and the old tombs of the long-dead kings. See how oases of life spring up in the desert. Though not all of these oases are quite what they seem. See with this one, how the Bedouin tribes of the desert go close, taking food and rest beneath shady palms, while other oases they will avoid. And there the rustling of the palms seem to sing with the warning sing-song of djinns and tricksters. And here, over by this pool, we can see the half-human, half-beast, flesh-eating lamia who sit by the waterside and laugh and play, going silent to entice weary travellers into their traps. Even now, see in the distance how a group of exhausted outlanders approach, and see the lamia slipping into the shadows, looking one to another, smiling, laughing, as one of them sinks into the waters so that it covers the lower part of her body while she lies in wait. It won't be long until those weary travellers meet their doom. Thank you. I'm Simon Tells Tales, and this has been the first in my 5-part series looking at TSR's 1991 campaign setting, Anauroch, by Ed Greenwood. When we meet again, we'll be looking at the factions at play in the desert land. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below and subscribe for more videos exploring some of the classic Forgotten Realms D&D settings. If you've got a favourite one out there that you'd like me to cover as well, let me know in the comments below. Until then, I'll bid you a good night, and when next we meet I'll be introducing you to the Bedin, the Zentarim and the Faerun factions who rule over this land.